Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Poetry Street. This is the room without a roof, where every voice is heard. Welcome. And welcome all of you on Zoom, and thank you so much for coming. Now, before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge whose land we're on. We are on stolen land, and in Native American tradition, a land welcome is offered, and that's to recognize the original owner of the land in which we stand. New York City and Long Island has always been a gathering and trading place for many of the indigenous people. Poetry Street and our work in Riverhead and the other areas of Long Island is situated on the ancestral land of the Mansay, the Haudenosaunee, the Canarsie, the Shinnecock, the Montaukett, the Reckonwalk, and we acknowledge that we are guests here on this land and respect the many indigenous people who live on this land and continue to make ongoing contributions. Welcome to Poetry Street. Thank you. We have a wonderful, wonderful program for you today. But first, I would like to introduce you to my co-host, the wonderful, incredible, Emmy Award-winning Maggie Bloomfield.
Thank you, Chip. Welcome, everybody. I see all our features are here. It's going to be a wonderful afternoon. If there's anybody here who doesn't know much about Poetry Street, it was begun over 10 years ago at the Blue Duck Bakery by Susan Dingle and our own Bubby Brown. It was part of the East End Arts Jumpstart project. And we were at the Blue Duck, thanks to Pat Snyder, for a long time. And then the Blue Duck closed, and we had a little period of transition during something called COVID, you may remember. And then we were invited to the Riverhead Library, and we thank Joanne and the library staff for making a home for us here. There are a couple of ground rules. There's also a community poem. I encourage you all to take a slip of paper from the jar back on the table and write a line and put the line in the jar. I will put the poem together and read it to you next month. So if you want to hear the poem, you have to come back. Okay, the last month's was kind of challenging. But here it is, what you guys wrote. Time was joy in the air. We are so wonderfully done with each other. This might not be the way. Poetry is life-changing for being me, only me, without a roof, without a clue. The more people know you, the more you are loved for being you, only you. Wow. Well, thank you. So the ground rules are, we will have our 3 features this afternoon. They're all wonderful poets. And they will each share for about 12 minutes. Then we will have an open mic. And after the open mic, the features will come back and read one more poem as an encore. Our features, and the open mic, one poem, please, one short poem, not your epic, please. Yeah, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes tops. No problem. Anyway, our features today are magnificent, just magnificent. And we're going to start with Hawa Allan. And Hawa is a lawyer and a writer of cultural criticism, fiction, and poetry. Her work is published in Baffler, Lapham's Quarterly, Boston Globe, and Time magazine, among others. Her debut book, Insurrection, Rebellion, Civil Rights, and the Paradoxical State of Black Citizenship, interweaves legal history and personal narrative. Eloquently mixing history, autobiography, and philosophy, writes Publishers Weekly of Insurrection, this powerful account sheds new light on the Black experience in America. Please help me welcome Hawa Allan.
Thank you very much to Maggie for inviting me. I appreciate having this venue to read my work. So I'll just go ahead and get started since we have limited time. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Tame. Tame, function, verb. Inflected forms, tamed, taming. Definition 1A, to reduce from a wild to a domestic state. B, to subject to cultivation. C, to bring under control, harness. Definition 2, to deprive of spirit, humble, subdue. 3, to tone down, soften. To be broken in, worn, to fit the mold of another foot. I relax my reflex, hold back my bite as your toes wiggle in my throat. They call you master and me your pet, but I am master of my pet will. So this next poem is aptly called Gentrification. The invasion of movie extras who think they're the stars. They haunt stage sets, shells for shells, blown down by gales of rent and propped up again with vintage decor, echoes of a before that never was. To move so far only to inhabit the good old days their parents still vote for. Foregrounded filler, their chatter chokes the words you want to hear, yet as they steal the spotlight, they shift their weight from hip to hip, waiting for the action. So this next poem is called Grenfell, and it's named after the Grenfell Towers in London that burned down. This was some years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the story. But it was two towers, basically council towers, and there was a fire that started somewhere in one of the towers. But the reason why it spread so rapidly and so many people died in this tragedy is because the material that it was built with was basically very cheap, and there were a lot of new immigrants and people from, mostly not born in the UK who were affected by that fire. So this is Grenfell. To sit still in the fire, we are told, takes the mettle of a monk who knows he's the still, small, ice blue eye of a flame, the unwavering source of that which flickers and licks, as if the alarm doesn't sound for us all, even if only at a pitch those with ears pricked can hear. Stay where you are, they say, as if we aren't already immobilized, cemented in this sight for sore eyes. No, we are not monks, but mere mortals, cleaved to this body politic. There is no refuge from our emergency states, and neither we nor our infernos are self-made. Okay, so this next poem is called A Single Step, and it's inspired by a number of trips I took to Tijuana. This was some years back in 2017. And essentially I encountered a lot of Haitian migrants who were on the other side of the border, many of whom had traveled miles from Brazil, where they had already been working as part of the Olympics. And when that, all that Olympics, brouhaha was over, there were a lot of migrant workers who didn't really have any work left to do, and then they start to try to travel to the U.S.-Mexico border with the hope of going over to the United States. But then many didn't make it over because there was a change in the laws at that time that could potentially put them at risk of being deported as soon as they crossed over the border. So there was this sort of thriving, actually, community of Haitians in Tijuana, to the point where there was like a small area called Little Haiti, where, there were many Haitian migrants living and sort of just establishing themselves and having cultural exchange, in Mexico. So this poem is called A Single Step. And so it ends, that journey of 7,000 miles, with a single step. Ferried by swollen feet, having clutched at the underbelly of cargo trucks, heads inches above a blur of tar and dust, dirt washed from ancient lands where war is weather and weather is war. You have survived the arbitrary, blunt force of history. And now you seek the asylum of my quiet desperation. So take a single step, a quantum jump into a higher order of worlds, and you'll find that you're always arriving at the border. A wall of tongues, impenetrable ears, a fortress of detention locked by unscalable bond. Step into the land of the relatively free, a home that is braved. Come, walk in, shackled to this new state. Welcome to our adverse cities. As you file in numbers, know that we are here waiting to see you. All right, so now this is a poem that I've titled Lattice of Fear, or Bamboo Torture. I have no spine, no backbone, just this hollow grid that shoots, stealth yet swift like bamboo. Whistling lancets spike up and through my groin and heart, out the base of my skull, leaving the rest of me dangling, a limp puppet hanging on this lattice of fear. A still replica of me. I can't move towards you, and I can't move away from this delayed effect of some unknown cause. Okay, that's the end of that. All right, let's see how much I make left. So I'll do this one. This one's called How to Fall Out of Love. Lie face down on your bed, cheeks to sheet, sprawl and be warm under cover. Be still, ignore your breathing, submit to numbness and lose your body in the mattress. Forget your skin, forget sensation, just crystallize. Let your flesh fuse fibrous with cotton linen and acrylic mesh. The pain will drain through you and settle below in cushiony depths like urine. Let me do this one. So this one is called Philodendron. It's an ode to one of my houseplants. I lay looking at long leafy vines hanging from a high spot, spilling over and down from its pot. I watched loose limbs grow closer and closer to the floor. Still and sober, I stared from the L-shaped sofa, already cornered. This plant will outlive me, I thought, as I sensed it drew from waters deeper than I ever knew. I lay there, my chest clear of the fog of gloom that had gathered and weighed down upon my feet, that carried me across a busy boardwalk amid the tangle of bodies, the waft of hot dogs, tumid with sweat, the rise and fall of cries on amusement rides, and the eerie slow turn of a Ferris wheel glowing in the dusk. I'd conquered my final absence from the scene, already a vintage peeling postcard, and I an antiquity of the mind. I was rather resigned, at peace with the hanging vines, crawling across the floor, inching like green worms, clawing up the sofa, wrapping in and around my bones, leaves blooming through my caged ribs and out of eyeless sockets, bursting through long yellow teeth of the ever slackened jaw of my skull. An endless, torrid thriving, living a life I merely haunt. Okay. So why not do this one? All right. This one is called Here I Am. Cupped by night, cradled and held together by shadow, I am swollen and overripe, a moist seed in dark, rich soil. I am the hint of another ripple, a long delayed effect of some unknown cause. I am the silence of an echo without walls. I am, in the end, a prism, refracting the light of experience. I am an ancient homeland, a forgotten memory of paradise. All right. So this one is called Be the Cry. Be the Cry. When you have outgrown your skin and emerged raw, wrinkled, your body an ending of nerves, light, wind and rain, a stinging offense, your mouth a slack and waiting like a baby bird's beak, that first sound, that gurgling rasp through a new throat will be the cry that births another world. So I might want to test out a new poem in the last 40 seconds. It's called Untitled. So Untitled. Tinged with brown, once plush leaves curl on themselves in a futile retreat from an invisible flame. The white bird of paradise slowly folds its wings under the ever-closed slits of living room blinds, like heavy eyelids that can't bear the strain of opening just to close once again. These are just the signs, and yet we are all still breathing for now. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay, let's hear it again for Hawa. Allan. Hawa, you are magnificent. I hope you come back again. Sure, it's Hawa's first time, I believe, at Poetry Street. And we are very happy to have her featured today, and she will come back for an encore. Our next poet who will be on Zoom is the magnificent Hiram Larew. Hiram's most recent collection of poems, This Much Very, will be published early this year by Alien Buddha Press. His poetry has appeared in many journals, recently in Shine and International Web Post. As founder of Poetry X Hunger, he's bringing a world of poets to the anti-hunger cause. You can find out more about Hiram and X Hunger by visiting his website, hiramlarewpoetry.com or poetryxhunger.com. Please help me welcome Hiram Larew.
Thank you so much, Maggie. I really appreciate the invitation. And Chip and Maggie and Claire's willingness to host and organize this session. And it's a real pleasure, of course, to read alongside Hawa and Pramila. I'm Hiram. I'm from Maryland, not too far from Washington, D.C. And I want to, again, thank everyone for being here on this kind of cold Saturday, both on Zoom and in person at the Riverhead Free Library. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read about 4 or 5 poems with just a short break between a couple of them to talk about an initiative. And I have to upfront apologize to Jean Jurek and Linda Dickman, and I believe Lady Di Beverly is here as well. I think they've probably heard some, if not all, these poems, so just forgive me for rereading. This first poem I introduced by saying, I don't know about you, but these days I have to imagine beyond the headlines. In fact, these days I tend to look up over and well above those headlines. This poem first appeared in Right Now Lit, and then in my new collection, which just came out from Alien Buddha Press, collections titled This Much Very. The poem is titled To the Limit. Someone asks what I would fight for. Well, I'd fight for the moon in a heartbeat, with its halo of wisdom, its cloud cover of guess, and its wish to, even its merely. Yes, I'd march for its will. And I'd defend the moon with longing, with anything I could muster, no limits, to keep it up over for harvests or phases, even for no one. Then, if allowed to, I'd rejoice in its quiet apart from that always wins me for as long as what matters lets me. The moon's mix of far away, but right there, all gathered about. Here's a love poem to a place. This was written while I was at a residency in Ireland on what's called Achill Island. And it first appeared in a journal called The New Ulster, and then in my 2021 collection, Mud Ajar. The only other couple of things you need to know about the poem is that the potato blight famine in Ireland occurred from 1845 to 1849. And to reach Achill Island from mainland Ireland, you have to cross Achill Sound. Again, a love poem to a place. The title of the poem is Achill Sound. When the roads curve like sound and dip, as if lifting to bow, whenever all thoughts round or cluster, or when hearts call down, is Ireland. And as rich when poor was, or as wise as bare heads in snow seen, and as twigs so frail broke into song, and as true as any blight or potato could be, was Ireland. So when sand laps the senses, or salt drips the edges of dreams, whenever hope streams through such heavens, and moss comes home, or hearts beam down, desire. This next poem is all about gratitude, or maybe the reverse, not being grateful enough. It first appeared in a journal called Poetry Bus, and then in This Much There. It's titled Wilt or Strength. I am incredibly lucky. Even this haze knows it. Even my useless gaze says so, in every way. To be where I am now, living like this, is like cherries on a branch. In fact, I'm not nearly grateful enough for this mud and for its reasons. Not thankful enough for fences blown down or pink hoses. No, I don't deserve fortunes. In fact, I need to tip my hat in love and honor to every buzzing swarm that's coming at me, or to any wilt or strength. And I should surely thank my lucky stars, my blessing, for what last night clouded its way with a row of beams out back in the garden. So let me take a pause for just a minute and Maggie mentioned the work that several of us are involved with, a title called Poetry X Hunger. It's an initiative I started several years back to bring poets and their wonderful talents to bear in the fight against hunger. And so I'm asking all of you to join Chip, Linda, Judy, and others in helping us turn poetry into food by sending your hunger-themed poems to Poetry X Hunger for possible publication on the Poetry X Hunger website. We use those poems to raise awareness about hunger, feed the children, developed a public service announcement incorporating one of the poems, one of the poetry excerpts of the poem. And that public service announcement has been viewed by 170,000 folks on YouTube. So we're using poetry to raise awareness. We're also using your poems to raise funds for the anti-hunger cause. Last couple of years, we've raised roughly $20,000 for anti-hunger groups locally in the US and literally around the world. So join us. And when I finish up here, I'll post, realizing you folks in the room or in the real room can't see the postings necessarily, but the folks on Zoom, I'll post the link to the submission guidelines. Would love to see poems from each and every one of you. So back to the poems, I've just got a couple more. This poem first appeared in Poetry Catalog, and then again in This Much Berry, the new collection. It's titled Wrong Things. I need to listen more to wrong things. Yes, I need to let talk that's hard get close to me. I need to believe in the truth of burned up dinners and take lessons from dogs that sneak by with ticks. In fact, the only way I'll learn probably is from an animal that's hurt or from a kid who is shaky scared. Yes, the hollow sounds they make turn my shivers into wisdom. So with all of that in mind, I think I'll turn my back on the surest things in life, because it seems along comes a mistake or bams of angry lightning, and what had been neat and locked down tight splits apart, wide open, all at once, with concerns and revelations. And this last poem is an older poem. In fact, it appeared in my very first collection. It first appeared in Wisconsin River Valley Journal, and then in my very first collection titled Part of. It's a love poem. It's titled Boat. You see, I don't care if his hair is combed back. He is my son. I love every shoestring of him, every bit that he thinks he knows. 15 years. I don't care what he becomes, because he'll become something. Look at it. He'll become more than those red ears or green things. He'll become even more important than that. More and more, I hold him by the shoulders, listening. And when I do, it's as if he can't be here forever. I think get him up the tears and then watch him like the minutes just went by. For the long, nothing I do will matter. I know that. But look at you, especially when he's reaching for something. You must be the whole of the world out there, son. That's missing. Thanks so much, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hiram. That was wonderful. Let's hear it again for Hiram Larew. Wow, what features we have today. Oh my goodness. And what a service this man is providing. Let's all submit for heaven's sake. Our final feature today really needs little introduction, but I will introduce her anyway. She's an old friend of Poetry Street. Pramila Venkateswaran, Poet Laureate of Suffolk County, 2013 to 15. Walt Whitman, Birthplace, Long Island Poet of the Year, 2011. Is the author of Thirtha, Uganda, 2002, Behind Dark Waters, Plainview, 2008, Draw Me in Most, Stockport Flats, 2009, Trace, Finishing Line, 2011, 13 Days to Let Go, Aldrich, 2015, Slow Ripening, Finishing Line, Press, 2022, she's a New York Book Festival award winner, and her latest books are Exile is Not a Foreign Word, Copper Coin, 2024, and Tamil Dalit Feminist Poetics, Roman and Littlefield, 2024. Pramila performs and runs poetry and poetic workshops internationally. Please help me welcome Pramila Venkateswaran.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Maggie, for your introduction, and thank you, Chip. It's wonderful to be here in Riverhead and reading to you, and hello to my Zoom audience. So this is my latest book, hot off the press. Exile is Not a Foreign Word. So today I'm going to read some poems from my book, from this book. And there's, check the time. The spirit behind this book was basically addressing the different borders, political and personal borders that we construct and try to overcome. And the first poem I'm going to read, there is one reference to Hannah Arendt, philosopher, American, Jewish philosopher. Walls, a poetics. Hannah Arendt wonders about thoughtlessness, are pushing thought aside like a stone caught in the mouth while chewing dinner. How we willfully look at or away from atrocities. Driving on Pond Path on an early February morning, my worries turn to dust when I see the sun, a fat gold semicircle, rising between the trees. By day, the sun's wand exposes the bones of the city, awakening foul air, the hues of dawn distant. I'm unnerved by the thought that I can be violent towards the ones I don't recognize. I send my thoughts out like birds to the borders, willing joy to people remaining unknown, reduced to numbers. How brave am I to think of others before myself? Illuminate my world with thoughts that can dismantle walls. Women know the art of scaling walls of protection, curfew, taboos. No one wills to open the door of our security to free us. We learn to look for the key ourselves, or train to climb, grow friction in our calloused heels and arches to travel up the inches, like men clambering up coconut trees to pluck heavy fruit. We are Sisyphus. The more we slip, the higher we climb, carving wedges into our feet and hands. Thank you. This next poem I'm going to read is called Amma's Narrative About Partition, 1947. And this is the partition between India and Pakistan, engineered by the British. Amma's narrative about partition. Uncle waited every day at the station. Where was Kamli and her husband? Sweating, heart hammering with the screams of the crowd flowing down the platform, bunching up a towel to his face to stem the stench. He could not look away from the bloodied bodies pulled out of the carriages. The killing at the border was relentless, he knew. But this carnage in the trains. Then what happened? Did she come? We asked. Curious, our minds unable to understand genocide. Uncle kept going to the station every day. One day, she appeared from behind engine smoke and ran toward him. And we breathed once more. Years later, we learned that other families still leaned towards the tracks, eyes fixed to a distant spot for the blazing dial, sharp whistle, belch of smoke. Wordless cries did not reach the triangle where the oceans meet at the bottom of India. Thank you. Berlin Wall, 1989. And this is the epigraph. In 1989, the Berlin Wall came down. East and West Germany finally became one. Siblings reunited. Friends and relatives met after a long separation. Lovers reconciled. I was working in a Quaker college when the news came. We believed in reaching decisions through consensus, not the mere show of hands or voting, but convincing people through Socratic dialogue. It was time-consuming and messy, but the possibility of rancor was low. Our college did not last. Funds ran out and we closed. But I learned about true democracy. When the Berlin Wall was dismantled, we celebrated. That same year, perestroika was declared in Russia. The old communist bloc broke up. And this is my poem. My husband, on returning from Germany, hands me pieces of the Berlin Wall wrapped in Deutsche Zeitung. Jagged cement, some powdery, like fudge or pie crumble. People collect them to remember the terror, the cementing of hearts. In my pain, in my palm, I see the crumbling of sorrow, soft pulsations of joy, feeding empathy into brick and mortar. For a long time, I keep the dregs in my purse. They seep through the paper, smearing my makeup and ID like flour. So each time I dust my fingers, I know why walls rise wickedly from the earth. Bread. After the explosion, after the unruly scattering, uneasy quiet on the streets, shut windows, litter. The baker turns on the light in his shop, wipes the front window with its single bullet hole, springing rays of splintered glass, and begins to knead the dough. Someone's got to make bread even during war, he says matter-of-factly. Soon, people will step like shadows onto the street, weave their way to him, and carry home a loaf to be shared. This next poem is based on an epilogue a eulogy from John Lewis's funeral held in 2020. And the epigraph goes, Satyagraha in Sanskrit means two things. It means nonviolence and it means insistence on the truth. And that is what John Lewis was all about, non-violently insisting on the truth. And this is taken from a speech by Nancy Pelosi's eulogy at John Lewis's memorial. Satyagraha. As he crossed the bridge in Selma, seared by sun, bearing beatings, sand grains stinging split skin, vermilion blooming on black bodies, Lewis pressed on, as a great one in India had persisted stubbornly. Active nonviolence haunted bold young Lewis, bearing white policeman's blows. Lifting his hands to protect his spinning head, he heard the tune of his lineage. We've got to keep going on to keep going on. Scratched black and white photos of yesterday metamorphosed today into multicolor marches, despite paddy wagons packing dissenters in, jail doors open, hungry for tenants. But young satyagrahis relentlessly gather in new borders. They know the iron taste of truth. Thank you. Deferred answers. If tears could fill our wells, they would overflow, create water vapor and much awaited rain. But heat has killed the tears in our eyes. We pray dry-eyed, how to squeeze a passing cloud for a few drops. Fields lie parched. Farmers in Northern California leave their farms to find relief. My mother, fretting about her brown tap drizzle in Chennai, wonders, worries. Kartatish, never seen anything so wild, fires devouring redwoods and homes, choking cities with smoke. No amount of hosing quenches the flames. Broken, broken, should we stay or flee? The circle of fire engulfs us. Water, water, hello, is anyone there? They say in the desert you can hear silence speak. See pink flowers struggle up from between rocks. Tear a juicy stem to drip water on your tongue. Oh. Thank you. I have two more poems. And this is my title poem, exile is not a foreign word. To understand exile, you don't have to look further than the family down the street who lost their home and all they owned, including their pets, in a fire or a foreclosure, or the mass of people reaching their arms out to rescuers who pull them out of the water in the sudden hurricane that sweeps the coast where you live, or the birds that drop dead at your feet and you smell the smoke of wildfire blazing through a forest up north. You don't have to look far to understand exile and homelessness. True, you still have a state you claim as yours, but the sensation of being in a vacuum, a dead zone, arises when your name etched on an identity card or online records cannot verify your existence. Yes, that too is a reality of anyone who swears by a country, not to mention if your palms are charred and your face alters with hurt. So I'd like to end with this poem, and it's called Is This Love That Stone-Clad Treaties Cannot Sunder? Behind her Madras headscarf and his hat framing it above, her fingers claw the wall to rise higher, to lock her lips with his. The couple just inches apart, the concrete rising between them. An open sky above, birds migrating. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. Let's hear it for Pramila. Beautiful. And let's hear it for all our features this afternoon. What an afternoon of poetry. The features will be back for an encore after the open mic. And we're about to begin the open mic. Chip will host that. As I said in the beginning, we ask you to please one poem and let your poetry speak for itself. No long introductions are necessary. We have a number of people here. We have our wonderful Zoom people, and everybody will want to read, I'm sure. So I'm going to turn the proceedings over to Chip Williford.
Wow, let's give it up one more time for our features. Yes, Hawa, Allan, Hiram, Larew, and Pramila Venkateswaran. Thank you so much. I feel like it's Christmas, even though that was like last month, but the gifts just keep on giving. Yeah, so I'm gonna start the open mic. Recognize a cry for help. I'm just an average Joe, and I really don't know why I have to fight day and night just for the right to stay alive. Despite this hard-hitting recession, income reduction, inflation, coronavirus, systematic and institutional racism, which are all contributors to my oppression, please tell me, can I repair my mistakes and ease my despair? I never imagined that I would ever be here, but I am. And I know I'm not alone. Many of us are already without a home, and I don't want the next one to be me. I'm trying my best for it not to be working harder for less pay. That ain't easy, even though I tell myself not to worry. So I'm doing the work, and in my mind, I'm trying to keep focused on surviving, not on dying. I don't break any laws. I'm courteous to my neighbor. I clean my own house, and each blade of grass is accounted for. I strive every day to make things better for my family and my community. Now tell me, what can I do to save my home and preserve one dollop of dignity? All the time, I tell myself, man, just do your best to try to climb out this mess. I try not to lose it. I try even harder not to stress. But how can I not when my feet are on fire and water boiling hot? My God, I'm trying so very hard not to let the depression of this recession seep in. So please help me. I really am deserving of a fair chance. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now it is my honor to bring up Warren McKnight. Let's give it up for Warren.
As you know, my name is Warren. I've been a busker or a street musician 50 plus years, a banjo busker, and it's been wonderful. Let's get right to the point. So let's get out of here in 3 minutes. Since I'm 81, I've been thinking about the Grim Reaper, so I'm going to give a digest on death. You know, a 17th century philosopher said, neither the sun nor death can be looked directly in the eye. You know, and now I'd like to read something by Samuel Clemens and Mark Twain that he's lectured in Sweden, and it's called "To the Above Old People." Sleep, or the sun that scores another day, against the tale allotted to stay. Reminding you is risen and now, serve notice, or ignore it now, while you may. The chill wind blew, and those who stood before the tavern murmured, having drunk his score, why tarries he with an empty cup? Behold, the wine of youth, it poured no more. Come, leave the cup on a winter's snow, your summer garment of enjoyment throw. Your tired life is ebbing fast and exhausted once. Say that again. You know more shall flow. While yet the phantom of false youth was mine, I heard a voice out of darkness whine. Oh, my friends, God bless them. Oh, youth, oh, whither gone, return and bathe my age in thy reviving wine. Oh, voices of long ago, again, many of the friends and family that were so dear, falling silent now for many a year. Oh, whither are they, ye flow? Come back and break my heart, but bless my grieving ear. So let me be grateful, drain the magic bowl, the medicines hurt minds and soul, the healing of its peace, do lay if then, death claim, welcome it with dole. Okay. And now one of my favorite, he was at the Suffolk Theater, Don McLean, great singer and poet and writer. One of his favorite lines is, the book of life is brief, and once a page is read, all but love is left. So we have to love. That's the only thing that's could live forever, love. And it does. Life is very short. Smell the flowers and scratch where it itches. Yes, that was from I don't forget her name, but she was very good on that one. A final quote from Mark Twain. He was great, my gosh. Let us endeavor so to live that when we come to die, even the undertaker will cry. So, you know, and Fran Lebowitz she's very ironic on things. She says, remember, sleep is death without the responsibility. Yeah, she's cool. And I think the most profound thing about Mark Twain is in 1835, Haley's Comet came and Mark Twain was born. And in 1910, Haley's comic came, and Mark Twain went. Amen.
Give it up one more time for. All right, next we have Daniel Rogers. All right, let's give it up for this young man. All right, Daniel Rogers.
The name of this poem is called What is Destruction? What is destruction but a reaction to the action of them trying to destroy you? What happens when all of your common sense leaves and all you have left in you is vengeance and violent actions? So when you ask what is destruction, just think of this explanation. What is destruction?
Thank you so much, Daniel. And now we're gonna go all the way to Zoomland and ask Claire who we have waiting in Zoomland world.
Okay, Chip, to start with, we're gonna go, ask Ken tomorrow, to share, and he'll be followed by J.R. Turk.
All right. I assume my volume is good. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Life is a 72-year-old hangover, and I am tired. Tired of the endless meetings, tired of the cordial conversations, the unfriendly faces, the stares from others, the death of compassion. I'm tired of the sun and the cracks in the sidewalks and the crackling sounds my aging bones make. I'm tired of the fiber. I'm tired of smudged glasses, running errands, filling the gas tank, the bills, fighting for approval, fighting to belong. Tired of how the other half lives. But I am not tired of being alive. I'm tired of being a ghost in a room full of the living. I'm tired of looking at the calendar, of making decisions that aren't mine to make, of paying taxes, of winter and the death of everything, of loneliness, but I am not tired of the birds. They have done nothing for me to be tired of. That's it.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Hawa. Thank you, Hiram. Thank you, Pramila, and Claire, and Maggie, and Chip. So we were having a little pre-event conversation, and I said, oh, I have a poem on that. And I found it. It's from A is for Almost Anything, and my husband loves this poem. Acoustically challenged. It's possible he's lost his hearing. Hard to say if he's deaf, so I employ patience. Repeat things twice and wait for a response, a reaction, something. When I get nothing, the third time becomes a shout. Lo and behold, a miracle occurs. His cochlea, eustachian tube, and stirrup work. His hammer hits anvil onto his tympanic membrane. His eardrum reverberates sound, and glory be, he can hear. Perhaps he thinks I suffer from a similar affliction because he yells, I heard you the first time. I whisper a suggestion that in the future he respond, even with a grunt, so I know he heard me. In a lower whisper, I suggest a visit to an audiologist, a light comment that hearing aids these days are small, nearly indetectable, and a second shout, I'm not deaf. And I wonder if that's true, and perhaps there's a switch he controls for selective hearing. Thank you.
Hey, JR, before you mute, what's up with the board behind you?
Oh, That's actually, I'm quite honored. A dear friend, Leslie Simon, made that, and that is a quilt with amazing prompt words and themes that run through purple on purple with a little more purple. And so,
Thank you so much. I knew there was
thank
a
you.
story.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Let's give it up one more time for Judy. Okay. When the creator was giving out gifts, he gave this lady an extra dose of niceness. Please welcome Jen Mara. I said she's nice. Give it up again.
Thank you. Hi, this is brand new. We will dance again. January 17th, 2025, Shabbat. Knesset meets. Are we going to dance? Someone asks the rabbi on her way in. Not yet, said he. After she passed, lips pressed to a frown, he shook his head, back, forth, eyes lost. We haven't danced since October 7th, 2023, 469 days. It's Shabbat and Knesset is meeting. You would cry too if members of your tribe were kidnapped, held hostage, killed, raped, decapitated, dismembered. You would cry for them. I saw someone rock out a little to Lecha Dodi during services. I did too, as though we were almost dancing, just that one night, the one before 3 hostages came home. The cantor's drumbeat, upbeat. You would cry too. 94 hostages remain. Knesset met on Shabbat. We will dance again.
Thank you so much, Jen. Poetry Street on the Road, which is our website, poetrystreetontheroad.com. We have a film called Poetry Street on the Road, the film. And Nina Yavelle is on episode 3 of our series, and she's also featured on the film. And she's here today at the Riverhead Free Public Library. And let's give it up as she makes her way up to the front for Nina Yavelle. One of our mothers of Poetry Street also.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank
Thank you, Chip, and thank you, Claire and Hiram and Pramila for beautiful poetry. This is an answer to you. I'm also 81, but so this is my poem about going away. Oh, yeah. This is a brand new book called Blue Mums. It's kind of exciting to read from it. It's very easy now to pick a poem. This is called Should I Fear Death? Through linen curtains, the moon is waiting for day to end. Rises gracefully, shy to step onto the scene, while the sun, once the whole show, hangs for a moment, blasts the sky with fire, descends slowly to earth. These are the halcyon years, youth no longer striving, no more drama, exploring self, seeing, listening, no longer attached to silver or lovers. On the grill, a porterhouse steak, well marbled. Chance and Finn stare through the screen, riveted, ears twitching, chattering at birds. Should I fear death? Love at the bleak horizon, central, twined in memory. Sometimes I fear I will be caught off guard. My body suddenly fails, breath fades, the eyes close into the dark. Inevitably, it will happen, but I want to have my thirst quenched, my body, belly full, feel the curled up love of my boys, kiss remembered lovers, and catch the moon rising through the stars.
Thank you so much, Nina. Diana Morelli is here, and we're so happy to have her. And I think this is her first time here. Second time here. Okay, second time here. So glad to have her. Hi, how are you doing? All right.
Wonderment. Pink and yellow pixels streak across the steely sky. A little after sunrise, too soon for icicles dangling from eaves to melt. The cars in the driveway, nose to the road, frozen body can't shake the chill from northeast blast last night. Today, I will run an errand, yet to be determined. A long trip ahead of me, an early start. Layer upon layer, heavy winter wear leaves no skin bare. Outdoor air stings cheeks through face covering. That's all it takes to make me shudder. Inside the car, no relief. Hit the ignition, motor growls, heat defroster on full force. Everything takes a long time to get going. I stare ahead, wait for condensation to clear the windshield. Through sooty street glass, I see a neighbor. Dog on leash, she steps forward onto the median. Sweet-natured, aged pooch does his business. Out here in the open? Why not in the backyard as usual? The pair soon joined by the rental house lady. Flannel pajama legs tucked in rubber boots. She puffs on a cigarette. Didn't she stop that when she took up jogging last summer? A third person rolls a clunky trash can down to his mailbox, then joins the others. Why is he out now when the garbage truck shows up at supper time? Mittens motion for me to take part in friendly banter. Chat about this and that, seasonal doldrums. White flakes stick where they land. Sparkle. In the crowd, comfort, warmth, refuge from indoors, sitting before the fireplace, sultry stack of burning logs, bear skin thrown over shoulders, zesty hot, Earl Grey passing over lips. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So Claire, who do we have next on Zoom land?
Okay, next we have Lee Gill, and followed by the poet of Three Rivers, who will hopefully give us his full name when it's his turn.
I can't wait. Now, Lee Gill, he featured here not too long ago, and we're so happy to have him on Zoom land. But I can't wait for you to come to back to the library.
Thanks, Chip. Thank you, Maggie, and thanks for the features. Thank you, Claire. Great to be back. Great to start off the new year with Poetry Street. Everyone here is lovely. And this one is called As Peter Did. Okay, let's talk crossing rivers. You know I wasted plenty years drowning. I've played the role of soaking doormat. I've been less than a scoundrel's jetsam. As I sank to darkest and coldest depths, my heart's wellspring ran itself bone dry, cracked clay where love once dwelled. I drowned 1,000 times in thirst. Lo, I am delivered, for heaven opened, and shining mercy did reign over me. Now I can draw down that upper grace, till I overflow with blessed gratitude. So yes, rivers run blind round bends, turbulence thunders from roiling rapids, but witness me rising all above the rush. See me walking upon these troubled waters. Thank you.
Thank you. My poem I will introduce as, it's called Sec Deaf, Tone Deaf. Sec Deaf, Tone Deaf little man, hate the Muslims while you can, judge them harshly while you may. Is it against their stand against alcohol that gets in the way? You oft pay lip service to the Christ, and with the phony Christians you hang with, I'm sure that will suffice. Some crusaders you might imagine old Uncle Donny may yet, when necessary, toss your ass in a nearby chasm. Hide those tats, chum, as you may. Pretend some Christian pretense while you may drunken. Hey, a serious thought, that ain't you. You got some serious drinking left. Here's two. And all that nasty past, who was it that dragged you up the path and raised you up? You're on display. And what are you up to, old feet of clay? Have you found some counseling that made a diff, or are you still chasing Jim Beam off some cliff? Gosh, you wrote yourself one nasty script. Now you've got a heavy title. What bigger bag of boulders will you lift? Someone's bankrolled your climb to the heights. That's got us all wide awake at nights. And with whose bidding are you aligned? Well, I guess eventually we'll learn. I just hope there's time.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, we're gonna come back to the Riverhead Free Public Library, and we're gonna ask Steve Kramer to come up. Now, Steve Kramer is also featured on Poetry Street on the Road, the film, and also our 7-series, or is it 9-series episodes of Poetry Street on the Road.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kramer.
I'm gonna try a new poem and I'm gonna try to read it from my phone. What could go wrong? The upside of down. The door to my old rig is a wee bit ajar. Having lived in fabulous River City these last 27 years, I know what that means. Someone has been testing car doors in the neighborhood again. It was windy and raining and the best time to test doors, right? And I did not lock the car after coming home from my haircut last night. Sure enough, the center console is open. The glove box yawns wide and contains only the owner's manual and 2 wayward maple leaves. I laugh. I just got the old rig back from the body shop. The insurance company decided to fix the damage from a recent fender bender, and I had cleared out the car figuring that they were going to total it and send me a check for $500, which is about what my old baby is worth these days. But they fixed it. And the body shop detailed it as if it was a new Mercedes, and I laugh again. The car was completely empty, save the owner's manual, a bag of clothes y'all did not want, a snow brush, and the empty printer cartridge I meant to UPS back to the manufacturer 5 years ago. I laugh again. The agita of the fender bender and getting the old rig fixed, getting the rental car, giving my statement to the insurance company was almost worth the belly laugh as I closed the glove box, the center console, and locked the car. I'm still laughing as I climb the stairs into the house and lock the deadbolt behind me. You cannot be too careful in this neighborhood.
Wow, car poems. Oh. Okay, Wayne Barr, please come up and read something for us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Wayne Barr. So glad to have you back. One more time for Wayne.
Okay, this one's called Winners and Losers. Darkness lifts with a shudder. Returned light seeks refuge on the creviced vessel of ever-evolving human understanding. The moving light breathes color back into neglected wonders. Hopeful yellow daisies confused blue bumblebee grass, stand up for yourself. Listen for deeper secrets. On any given morning, unexpected insights can be revealed to those who have learned to listen, yet expect nothing. You know, the losers who have really won. Meanwhile, the winners, without a question, sleep faithfully on, thinking all is taken care of, confident in their paycheck, strutting in their necessary denial.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Claire, I know that you have people on Zoom land that's busting at the seams, just waiting to read. So let's bring a couple more.
Actually, I think Pameletta is our last person for today. And then I have one that I will read. I'm not sure if John James would like to read.
Okay, so let's give it up for Pramila Jones, the Ambassador of Peace from Cleveland, Ohio.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can? Okay, this is for those who need that uplifting encouragement. In the Bible, I understand the word "fear not" is written about 365 times. I had one time this poem written at 4:55 in the morning, Dr. Martin Luther King birthday, January 18th. Rest. Though darkness hath shown that it is ever near, rest, for our Father is here. Though darkness gives promise once all to bear, rest, for our Father is here. Though darkness seeks ye relinquish thy faith, rest, for our Father is here. Fear not, my children, let thy faith seek Jesus. Rest, for our Father is here. Amen. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Pamela. Always a pleasure. We're going to ask Bruce Johnson to please come up and read. Let's give it up for Bruce Johnson. What a wonderful guy you are.
I guess current events are pretty upsetting to some people. Probably half the country thinks things are great and the other half thinks things are horrible. See if you can guess which half I'm in. This is called The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image of spiritus mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it reel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its time come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born.
Thank you so much. And now, Claire, you have a poem, right? Hey, Claire, do you have a poem for
I
us?
do. I was at the end looking for James Johnson's reply. I apologize. This one is called The Worry Blanket. Worry knows no end and multiplies with each acknowledgement, like a to-do list that self-replicates with each added task. I can pile on the worry like cold, damp blankets that weigh me down into a miserable, wet, and bitter paralysis. Yet if I toss all those blankets off at once, in its own heap if need be, then I can manage to rise from under the worry pile, to lift each blanket up to the light, hanging it out to dry in the bright, brisk winter sun. It will give up its wet wool stench and drop its excess water weight. I should remember to pray over each blanket, one by one. That worry then converts into a warm wool shawl handed down by a loved one, generation to generation, wrapping me in a blessing with each wearing. I choose to trade the worry pile for the blessings of those I worry about. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for all that you do for us here at Poetry Street. Let's give it up for Claire one more time because she is just incredible. Thank you for keeping Zoomland on Zoom. Okay, now we also want to thank the Free Riverhead Library. You know, they do so much for us. We are offering us this wonderful home. After this program, the AAECF, and that stands for African American Education and Cultural Festival, is going to have a program. It's called Lit Freedom Ring. The guest speaker will be the Honorable Alonzo Jacobs. He's a Suffolk County District Judge, and it's actually at 6 o'clock here at the library. So if you can, just please come back for that program. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome back Maggie Bloomfield.
Thank you, everybody. This poem is called In Hiding. There is a secret room in our basement. We found it after we moved in. Under the stairs, obscured by a board on the door with sharps. I suppose the board held keys, lots of keys. How many keys does one family need? We store our luggage there. If we remove the suitcases, put them in one of two other rooms elsewhere in the 1960s decorated basement with a wet bar, we can easily fit a family of 3 or 4 immigrants, or possibly 2 large trans women into that room. If we place a large piece of furniture in front of the door, like Germany during the Holocaust, think Anne Frank, or the genocide in Rwanda, where 8 women survived in a tiny bathroom for 91 days, we could slip them food and help them remain safe, at least until we have to hide there ourselves.
Wow, I'm so glad that I'm not following that. Wow. So Kathy Donnelly is our next reader, and we're so happy to have her here. Kathy Donnelly. Maggie, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
I'm changing my mind here. So I would like to just start by saying what a marvel, worth every mile. Too many of them. It took me an hour and a half to get here, but I didn't take the expressway. I took 25A from Stony Brook. Of course, Chip, Mag, Claire. Where is she anyway? I thank these people for this event. It's so polished. It's incredible. Look at this. No one's got all this. I go to a lot of readings. No one's got all of it. Pieces of it. I want to also, of course, thank Hiram and Pramila, two people who I know well and have gone to many readings, and they're always fabulous. They're very established poets. But I would like to also thank the first reader, Hawa. Oh, Hawa. I don't know you, and you're fabulous. You read beautifully. Your work is in depth, and it's a privilege to know you.
Really, anytime I go and look, I'm gonna write a poem about birds at Riverhead. I watch them, the camerons, the turkey vultures, the egrets, the swans, you guys teach me how to appreciate life.
Well, I thank you for all your work, sir. Anyway, and also, young lady, not to mention you're gorgeous. Let me say that too. I'm going to read this funny poem because how many people here have dogs? Lots of dogs? Not too many. Well, I've been a working gal, so I don't really engage in having, another child. So this is my poem. To love a dog is to know love is messy. He drools in his slumber, flatus in the most inopportune times, makes an odoriferous sound, no apologies. He chews with his mouth full, chunks cover a 3-foot radius, leaves it for someone else to clean up. He barks for his wantings, expects his mind to be read, service toot sweet. His footprints are everywhere. After walking through the yard, trails of yellow dandelion, green pieces of grass, brown mud from under the sprinkler, shredded petals of red roses. His toys are left strewn about. I trip and nearly die every day. He seems to be oblivious, perhaps busy sorting out all the problems humans create in the world. He likes my music, closes his eyes, rests his head on 2 paws next to the speakers, howls with the high notes, groans with the low. I wonder if he would change the record if he had fingers, flip it to its other side. He loves everyone who walks in the door. Not having to live with him, they love him back after their initial assaults. Every day a challenge, forgive him his trespasses. I wonder if he forgives mine.
Thank you, Kathy. I don't have a dog, but I love you, Chewy. Chewy is my sister-in-law's dog, and they brought Chewy to us, and what a pleasure to have a dog and then give it back. Yeah, but for those of you who like to keep dogs, J.R. Turek donates part of her proceeds of dog speak to the Long Island's largest and probably the only, what, JR, why don't you tell us about the shelter?
It's North Shore Animal League. They're in Port Washington. They are the world's largest no-kill animal shelter organization. And last March, I was able to donate $500 from the sale of poetry books for dog speak. But yeah, 39 and a half years, 10 rescues, all North Shore Animal League. Yes, dogdom rules.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Judy. I just love it that poetry can be used to raise money for different funds that are very well needed. So thank you so much. So our founder, one of our founders is here. And he is someone that I proclaim as my mentor, whether he liked it or not, you know. This man is Bubby Brown. He is Man of the Year, many years, and I'm just so happy that he's here. I love him so very much. I got a couple more words to say about him. If you want to see more about him, go to poetrystreetontheroad.com, Poetry Street, the film. He is episode number 8, and he's also in the film, ladies and gentlemen, Robert A. Bubby Brown.
Oh, oh, and that was free. I didn't have to pay him or anything.
What, I don't get paid?
It's just incredible to me how each month we come back here and there's just a wealth of poets that just spring up from, I don't know where they come. Where do you get these people from? It's just amazing, and I just love it. And I come because it feeds me from that. This is for my friend. For my friend. I'll gladly tear down a mountain with my very own bare hands. All that it takes is for you to give the verbal command. Should you need to quench your thirst on a throat scratchy and dry, I'll have the whole Atlantic Ocean drinkably purified. The lengths that I would go through to reach a desired end are unfathomably boundless to gratify a friend. Can't take this thing lightly, grip it tightly and strong, 'cause it's a long time or never another one comes along. All I have that you have borrowed, no reason for me to keep track. There is no doubt in my mind that it's all coming back. Most likely it'll come back with interest, although none has accrued. It's just your way of saying thanks for something you had used. Transcending all distances, adrift through all time, the strength of this relationship, no force could ever decline. Sometimes we go for eons without a word to say. And when we finally do connect, it seems like yesterday. It's impossible for me to be lonesome. It seems you're always there, that invisible lingering companion, the one I refuse to share. There's no way I could pay for what you mean to me. Some folk pay oodles for a moment of peace, yet we share all of this for free.
All right. Let's hear it for the open mic people. Is there anybody else who wants to read that's not on the list?
I just want to say something. In fact, I know about Poetry Street. The Riverhead Library mails out the mail us every month and it has the itinerary of what's happening.
Right, right, the newsletter.
Yeah, it comes, yeah, it tells you what, all the different things you have.
Yes.
And when you're open and when it happens, yeah. And you guys are on February what?
The last Saturday of every month. And that will be, I think, February 25th, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, please all come back that day. Yes. Oh, come on. Come on. What's your name?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Hi, nice to meet everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. So in honor of the late Nikki Giovanni, rest in power. And in case you guys missed it a second time. This is for the Pullman porters who organized when people said they couldn't. and carried the Pittsburgh Carrier and the Chicago Defender to the Black Americans in the South so they would know they were not alone. This is for the Pullman porters who helped Thurgood Marshall go south and come back north to fight the fight that resulted in Brown versus Board of Education, because even though Kansas is west, and even though Topeka is the birthplace of Gwendolyn Brooks, who wrote the powerful The Chicago Defender Sends a Man to Little Rock, it was the Pullman porters who whispered to the traveling men, both the blues men and the race men, so that they both would know what was going on. This is for the Pullman porters who smiled as if they were happy and laughed like they were tickled when some folks were around, and who silently rejoiced in 1954 when the Supreme Court announced its 9-0 decision that separate is inherently unequal. This is for the Pullman porters who smiled and welcomed a 14-year-old boy onto their train in 1955. They noticed his slight limp that he tried to disguise with the doo-wop walk. They noticed his stutter and probably understood why his mother wanted him out of Chicago during the summer when school was out. 14-year-old Black boys with limps and stutters are apt to try to prove themselves in dangerous ways when mothers aren't around to look after them. So this is for the Pullman porters who looked over the 14-year-old while the train rolled the reverse of the Blues Highway from Chicago to St. Louis to Memphis to Mississippi. This is for the men who kept him safe. And if Emmett Till had been able to stay on a train all summer, he would have maybe grown a bit of a paunch, certainly lost his hair, probably have worn bifocals and bounced his grandchildren on his knees, telling them about his summer riding the rails. But he had to get off the train and ended up in Money, Mississippi, and was horribly, brutally, inexcusably, and unacceptably murdered. This is for the Pullman porters who, when the sheriff was trying to get the body secretly buried, got Emmett's body on the northbound train, got his body home to Chicago, where his mother said, "I want the world to see what they did to my boy." And this is for all the mothers who cried. And this is for all the people who said never again. And this is about Rosa Parks, whose feet were not so tired. It had been, after all, an ordinary day, until the bus driver gave her the opportunity to make history. This is about Mrs. Rosa Parks from Tuskegee, Alabama, who was also the field secretary of the NAACP. This is about the moment Rosa Parks shouldered her cross, put her worldly goods aside, was willing to sacrifice her life so that that young man in Money, Mississippi, who had been so well protected by the Pullman porters, would not have died in vain. When Mrs. Parks said no, a passionate movement was begun. No longer would there be a reliance on the law. There was a higher law. When Mrs. Parks brought that light of hers to expose the evil of the system, the sun came and rested on her shoulders, bringing the heat and the light of truth. Others would follow Mrs. Parks. 4 young men in Greensboro, North Carolina, would also say no. Great voices would be raised singing the praises of God and exhorting us to forgive those who trespass against us. But it was the Pullman porters who safely got Emmett to his granduncle, and it was Mrs. Rosa Parks who would not stand that death. And in not being able to stand it, she sat back down. Thank you.
I got my start at Suffolk County Community College. I've been waiting to say that. Okay, thank you so much, ADJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for reading. Thank you to our features who will now come back and read one poem. Hawa, please return to the podium.
Hawa Allan.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And thanks again to Maggie and Chip for inviting me and organizing all of this. This has been a lovely afternoon. So I'm actually not going to read one of my poems. I'm going to read a poem by a poet named Edward Salem. He is a 2023 Prez Artisan Fellow in Literary Arts and the recipient of the 2022 Penn Robert J. Dow Short Story Prize. He was chosen by Otessa Mosfeg as the winner of Bomb Magazine's 2021 fiction contest and selected by Louise Gluck as a finalist for the 2021 Changes Book Prize. He's also the co-founder and co-director of City of Asylum in Detroit, a nonprofit that provides long-term sanctuary to writers and artists who have been persecuted for their work. So this is a poem that was published in a short story, not short story, in a literary magazine that for whatever reason is now escaping. The name is just, it flew out of my head. Apologies. If I remember by the time I finish reading the poem, I'll mention it so you can go find it online. And it's called The Palestinian Chair. God said, and already you can tell, I'm making this up. If you lift a rock, I am there. If you lift a finger, I am there. If black water rips out your fingernails, I am there. God said, if you're strapped into the contraption the Israelis told the CIA they call the Palestinian chair, hands tied to your ankles, forcing you to lean forward in a crouch, forcing all of your weight onto your thighs, as if you've been trapped in the act of kneeling, to pray, knees suspended above the floor, arms pinned below your legs, blindfolded, your head collapsed into your chest, wheezing and gasping for air, a pool of urine at your feet, too tired to cry, but in too much pain to remain silent, and the chair locks you into a permanent squat from which you can't recover. I am there. God said, when 20 million Yemenis are silhouettes under pallid veils of skin, dying of starvation in 2016, 2020, 2024, 2028, 2032, while you scarf down Lam Agat at Yemen Cafe and Hamtramck, I am there. After life is over, you realize that you were there for all of it. It was you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hiram, do you
Thank-
have an encore poem for us?
Thank you, Maggie. I do. But before I do that, I want to extend, all kinds of gratitudes to those who have participated and made all this possible today. I was on a reading not too long ago where there was mention of poems that speak to the world and poems that speak to the heart, and how we need all and both of those. And I think today is a wonderful illustration of the power of poetry to speak both inside and out of us. I also want to thank the technology here. As I believe somebody was saying here earlier, this is a remarkably smooth program. And in fact, I don't think I've ever been on any other Zoom hybrid that's been as smooth. So thank you all for making that possible. This poem is titled In Ames, Iowa. It first appeared in Gilded Weatherhead in Ames, Iowa. If I was to give you something simple, what would it be? What could I bring you? I might pull up some onions for you because they aren't given away as they should be. And they might surprise you. Or I might better get you something easy, say a good map or a flashlight that could come in handy at some point. Then again, those all seem too much like you. So maybe something with magic in it, like the barn's hay. The trick is to find a gift that won't overdo you. I mean, how about if somehow I bring you that mix I just saw of sunshine on mud? Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you so much, Hiram. And finally, Pramila, come back and share another poem.
Thank you again, Maggie and Chip, and to my audience here. It's been really lovely to listen to all of you. Thank you, Hawa, for reading that incredible poem by Edward Salem, the Palestinian chair. And thank you, Hiram, for reading your poem. I selected this particular poem that I'm going to read. I was thinking about how food becomes the common denominator among people of different faiths. And it is politics that sort of tears us apart. And I was particularly thinking about halwa. And you all will get hungry and run to the restaurant after this. Halwa, which unites Jews, Muslims, and Christians. In any holiday. And I was particularly thinking about Kerala, where any kind of feast that you have, whether it is a Christian feast, a Jewish feast, or a Muslim feast, or a Hindu feast, you have halwa. Except that when the Jews make it, they use coconut milk instead of dairy. Sugar Rhapsody. Wait for the table to be set. Wait for the candles to be lit. Don't mumble, pray properly. Let the elders be seated. How badly I wanted the smell of semolina melting in sugar syrup, cardamom peppering the halwa, this Rosh Hashanah. I smelled it even before I walked in the door, threw my book bag on the floor. No, even before that in my dream. That's how badly I want to sink my teeth into the sticky slab of heaven. Alia and Abu next door share their halwa with us on Eid al-Fitr. Butter oozing from it, just like the Menon's desert. Amai says no to butter on our holidays. Ever seen translucence melt on the tongue? Oh, how it drives my craving, drives out rules. A Hindu auntie says to me, bite a bit of pickle, then eat more halwa without feeling sick. That's how we guzzle kheer in the temple, become as sweet as the god. Thank you.
Wonderful, Pramila. Thank you, everybody. Let's hear it for this afternoon.
And Maggie, let's have everybody come back on February 22nd, the last Saturday.
Oh, thank you, Claire. February 22nd, we have wonderful features. There will be an open mic. It will be on Zoom. Please come back. And thank you again to the Riverhead Library and to Chip and to Claire. And wow, you guys are something else. Thanks for coming.